What happens when nations that the world has long ignored finally decide to stop waiting for rescue and instead start writing their own rules? Imagine a world where the so-called footnotes of history suddenly pick up the pen and begin to author their own story. This is not a fantasy. It is happening right now, and it is shaking the foundations of global trade, dignity, and power. Burkina Faso and Bangladesh, two countries often dismissed as mere supporting actors in the vast drama of international commerce, have just stunned the world. By forging a direct cotton deal, one that bypasses the Western brokers who have dictated their economies for generations, they have rewritten the script. For the first time in living memory, these nations are not just subjects in someone else's narrative. They are the authors, the protagonists, the ones who decide what comes next. This deal is not charity. It is not a loan delivered with a hidden bill, nor a favor granted with strings attached. It is a pact built on courage, a shared vision, and a handshake between equals. Gone are the days of pleading for distant promises from faraway capitals. Now, these nations are shaping their future, side by side, on their own terms. A revolution that echoes far beyond cotton, far beyond Africa and Asia. While the world's gaze lingers on headlines of crisis and chaos in Africa, a quieter revolution is taking root. The news media may scream disaster, but beneath that noise, a new resilience is emerging. These are not tales of despair. They are stories of hope, grit, and relentless determination, stories that deserve to be told. Make no mistake, this partnership is about much more than trading cotton. It is a rebellion of dignity, a movement for self-respect and freedom. It is a declaration that pride, value, and independence do not require permission from powerful outsiders. In this sense, it is not unlike the salt marches of India, when ordinary people challenged colonial monopolies. It is not unlike the Marshall Plan, when nations rebuilt themselves after devastation. But this time, the architects are those once denied a seat at the table. If the world continues to overlook alliances like this, the old structures will stand unchallenged, keeping independence just out of reach. But if we pay attention, if we champion these new partnerships, history itself can be rewritten. At last, the marginalized may seize the pen and shape the future. Are you ready to witness how this rebellion began? Let's journey to the sun-baked fields of Burkina Faso, where the first sparks of change set the horizon alight. In a landscape scarred by drought and disappointment, a handful of farmers dared to imagine something different. Their struggle would ignite a partnership powerful enough to challenge the world's oldest trade empires. Imagine a group of farmers standing in a cracked field, their hands calloused, their eyes tired but hopeful. For them, every seed planted is an act of defiance, a refusal to accept the status quo. Why did it take a revolution in the soil to challenge decades of injustice? For generations, Western powers set the terms, paying African farmers pennies for their cotton, spinning it into costly shirts, and selling those back at a premium. This endless cycle locked entire villages and nations in dependency, exporting raw hope instead of real value. In many ways, this echoes the colonial extraction of resources, where cocoa from Ghana or rubber from the Congo fueled wealth abroad but left local communities impoverished. But something has changed. In Burkina Faso, a new leader has risen from the Red Earth. Ibrahim Traoré, not yet 40 years old, became president with a mission: transform his country's cotton wealth into lasting power and pride. He refuses to let his people stay invisible on the world stage. His pledge is both simple and radical. Africa will export value, not just dreams. In this, he follows in the footsteps of leaders like Thomas Sankara, who once said, "He who feeds you controls you." At the core of this vision stands a groundbreaking deal with Bangladesh, crafted to shatter the old order. No more middlemen. No more Western brokers siphoning profits. This is a direct partnership between two equals from the global south, a bold alliance where both sides win. They call it the Cotton Rebellion, But it is more than textiles. It is a new script for trade, dignity, and self-determination. It is reminiscent of the Bandung Conference in the 1950s, when newly independent nations charted a course outside the Cold War's binary logic. For the first time, farmers in Burkina Faso witness change with their own eyes and hands. Tractors roll through the fields, not as foreign charity, but as investments earned by their own work. Cooperatives spring up, offering not only tools, but something deeper, belonging and pride. In place of handouts, there is ownership. In place of foreign brands, there is the mark of local strength. This is how Japan rebuilt its industries after World War II, through local initiative, not foreign control. The difference is real in every village. Where once lay broken promises and tired soil, now stand new machines, busy workshops, and young people daring to dream at home. Farmers speak of respect, not pity, dignity, not dependence. This is what happens when people are empowered to shape their own story, when hope is anchored by action. Consider the story of old Madhu, a farmer whose family has worked the same patch of land for 3 generations. For decades, his cotton was sold for a pittance, his children forced to leave for the city in search of work. Now, with the new cooperative, his cotton fetches a fair price. His eldest daughter, once destined for garment work in a distant city, stays to manage the accounts. The transformation is not abstract. It is written in the meals shared, the school fees paid, the dignity regained. Yet the stakes could not be higher. If this movement fails, Africa remains trapped in the old cycle, exporting raw goods, importing poverty, and letting distant powers set the rules. But if it succeeds, the next generation will inherit more than land. They will inherit pride, prosperity, and proof that real change grows from the ground up. The same was true in South Korea's rapid industrialization. A generation's hard work reaped rewards for their children. But revolutions do not go unchallenged. As the Cotton Rebellion gathers strength, it draws the attention and the resistance of those who profit from the old ways. International commodity traders, accustomed to setting the terms, begin to push back. Rumors swirl of new tariffs, of quiet pressure on banks to refuse credit. It is the same playbook used against nations that once tried to nationalize oil or minerals. Could a single handshake redraw the lines of power, shifting the weight from distant boardrooms to the sun-baked cotton fields? History is filled with examples, from Gandhi's spinning wheel to Brazil's biofuel revolution, where small beginnings sparked global change. In the heartlands of Burkina Faso, farmers like Old Madu live through a transformation their ancestors never dared to dream. The fields once marked by drought and struggle now buzz with energy. Red tractors glint beneath the sun. Solar pumps hum beside neat irrigation lines, all bought and shared by local cooperatives. No foreign logos, no hidden debts. Each machine is owned outright, with Burkina Faso's flag flying above, silent proof of a hard-won independence. For the first time in living memory, the young do not flee. Instead of chasing uncertain fortunes in distant cities or risking perilous journeys abroad, they stay. They become business owners, farm managers, and community leaders. Parents exchange proud glances as their children learn to innovate, not just to survive, but to flourish. This is how the so-called brain drain can be reversed, by making home a place of opportunity. In Bangladesh, the echo of this change is heard on every factory floor. Textile workers stitch labels marked "Cotton of Freedom," knowing the source of their fiber and the reason behind every thread. Their pride is tangible. Wages are fairer, work is steadier, and families feel the ripple of purpose that stretches from loom to home. One worker, Aisha, tells her children that their clothes are now a symbol of hope, not exploitation. Knowledge flows both ways, faster than any river. Burkina Faso's farmers mastered drip irrigation and advanced pest control from Bangladeshi experts. Meanwhile, textile scientists from Bangladesh walk dusty African paths, teaching spinning and dyeing techniques that transform raw fiber into world-class cloth. Together, they are building something entirely new, a partnership rooted in mutual respect, not charity or dependence. It recalls the Green Revolution in India, where sharing knowledge transformed harvests. In village schools, a new generation studies agronomy with textbooks filled with local heroes and homegrown victories. Farming, once a last resort, becomes a badge of honor and ambition. Students dream not just of harvests, but of inventions, of leading their communities into a future their grandparents could never imagine. In science fairs, children devise apps that predict rainfall or calculate fertilizer needs, drawing on new resources and ideas. This alliance reaches beyond cotton. National funds lay new roads, weaving once isolated villages into the fabric of the nation. Markets, clinics, and hope follow each stretch of fresh pavement. Where there was only dust, now there are possibilities. Every kilometer is a promise fulfilled, a reason to believe. The same roads that carried away raw cotton now bring back tools, teachers, and dreams. Innovation sweeps in. Young software engineers launch apps that track cotton prices, warn of weather threats, and connect farmers directly with buyers. Students cross continents for hands-on learning. Governments form rapid response teams, showing that solidarity between southern nations can save lives, not just livelihoods. During a recent flood, Bangladeshi engineers advised Burkina Faso teams by video, proving that knowledge is a two-way street. Yet with each victory, the stakes grow heavier. Old powers watch from afar, uneasy. If this bold experiment fails, hope will vanish, and the old exploitative systems will tighten their hold. But if it thrives, the world faces a new reality. The global South can choose its own path to dignity and prosperity. The example could spread, inspiring similar alliances around coffee, cocoa, or rare earth minerals. As the cotton rebellion spreads, headlines crackle and powerful interests stir. The next act will test just how far courage, cooperation, and self-determination can go, now that the world is finally paying attention. In Geneva and London, lobbyists whisper about instability. But in Ouagadougou and Dhaka, citizens speak of destiny. The first cracks appear as the global establishment pushes back. In the shadows, forces begin to gather, determined to defend the old order. Western banks delay payments, insurance companies raise premiums, and trade envoys arrive with new demands. But the alliance holds, bolstered by trust and transparency. Can two underdog nations truly upend the fate of a continent and force the world to listen? History offers hope. When Brazil and Argentina created Mercosur, few believed it would challenge European or American trade blocs. Yet today, Mercosur is a powerful force. Why not a cotton union in Africa and Asia? The news of the cotton deal between Burkina Faso and Bangladesh ripples across continents. For the first time in living memory, African farmers receive direct payment. No Western middlemen, no shadowy brokers. Incomes surge, markets reel. Communities from Bobo Dioulasso to Dhaka are electrified by a newfound pride, as neighbors realize their work finally means something more. In village councils, elders speak of a new era, one where the fruits of labor remain at home. In Europe's boutiques and megastores, shelves brim with clothing labeled Origin, Burkina Faso, and Bangladesh. What was once a footnote now becomes a headline. African and Asian ingenuity rivals the legacy powers, delivering textiles not just for profit, but with stories woven in every fiber. Consumers and fashion giants take notice, hungry for clothing that wears its dignity openly. Ethical fashion blogs celebrate the change, and documentaries air on global platforms. The movement ignites beyond its birthplace. Inspired, nations like Mali, Benin, India, and Egypt reach out, eager to join. A new cooperative forms, the African-Asian Cotton Union, linked by ambition as much as by fiber. Blockchain technology tracks every bale, ensuring absolute transparency. No more hidden fees. Every farmer claims a fair share, and the old chains begin to rust. The model is studied in business schools from Cape Town to Singapore. Power shifts. Boardrooms in Geneva no longer dictate the price of sweat and soil. Decisions now echo in African fields and Asian mills. Young entrepreneurs and coders seize this moment, launching startups that turn raw cotton into digital assets, mobile payments, and homegrown brands. Local economies flower as fresh talent rises, proving that prosperity can be seeded and harvested at home. This echoes the rise of Silicon Savannah in Kenya, where local innovation led global trends. Fashion transforms. Exploitation and anonymity give way to pride and provenance. To wear these clothes is to know where your shirt was grown, who spun the thread, and why it matters. Each label becomes a declaration, every garment a badge of independence. Shoppers worldwide demand fair trade and accountability, pressing the industry toward a higher standard. The fair trade movement, once a niche, becomes the norm. At its core, this rebellion is about reclaiming more than cotton. It is about seizing the right to set prices, to define value, to choose dignity and self-determination over dependency. The world now faces a choice: embrace fairer trade and mutual respect, or cling to old hierarchies, risking backlash and unrest. This crossroads will not just reshape economies, but will decide how entire peoples see themselves and their futures. In the past, when economic injustices festered, like during the American Dust Bowl or the Asian financial crisis, entire societies paid the price. With every shipment, every new partnership, the Cotton Rebellion swells. No longer a mere transaction, it becomes a sweeping movement, a living legend, written in real time with the world as its witness. Social media buzzes with the hashtag Cotton Rebellion. Artists paint murals in Dhaka and Ouagadougou, celebrating this new era. But victory is never simple. As the movement gathers pace, powerful forces begin to push back, threatening to unravel everything the alliance has built. Trade wars, misinformation campaigns, and sabotage attempts test the resolve of the partnership. Yet, like the anti-apartheid boycotts or the rise of the Asian tigers, solidarity endures. What happens when ordinary people seize the power to shape their own destinies? The Cotton Rebellion answers this question with a bold truth. Transformation begins at ground level. It is not politicians or distant corporations dictating the future. It is farmers, youth, and workers who are breaking old chains and forging new paths, one harvest at a time. Consider the centuries of global trade tilted against nations like Burkina Faso and Bangladesh. For generations, these countries watched their cotton and dreams pass through foreign hands, priced and valued elsewhere. But when the people decided to act, they did not ask for permission. They built a partnership, turning their backs on the middlemen, and proved that grassroots alliances can challenge even the most entrenched empires of commerce. It is the story of the Grameen Bank in Bangladesh, which reimagined finance for the poor. Each field plowed and every bale of cotton traded directly between equals becomes an act of defiance. With every shipment, pride and dignity grow. This is not only about money. When workers see their labor respected and their stories told, they stand a little taller. Children start to dream in brighter colors. Entire communities begin to believe in the value of their work because it finally matters. The secret is not mysterious. It is investment in education, local technology, and direct, honest cooperation. A red tractor rolling through a dusty field, paid for with Burkinabe hands, is more than a machine. It is a promise. A village installing its own solar-powered pumps, or a group of farmers negotiating their own price is not just earning a living, they are claiming freedom. Similar shifts happened when Vietnamese farmers formed cooperatives after independence, boosting yields and incomes. Owning your story changes everything. Imagine defining your own worth, setting your own price, in trade, in life, in legacy. That is what the Cotton Rebellion is teaching us. This uprising is not simply about fabric. It is about weaving new possibilities into the world's future. If two underdog nations can rewrite the rules for cotton, what else can we transform? Food, technology, even dignity itself. The precedent is powerful. When Iceland rewrote its constitution in response to crisis, it showed that agency is always possible. You do not have to wait for permission to take part. Support movements that honor local wisdom, direct partnership, and pride over dependence. Whether you are a student, a worker, or a dreamer, your own hands can help spark change in your community. The risk? If you stay passive, old systems will keep writing your story for you. But if you act, you can help redraw the map. Every history-making movement began with hands in the dirt and eyes on the horizon. The Cotton Rebellion is just one spark, but it proves that agency, pride, and the power to reimagine our future are within reach for us all. Just as community gardens in Detroit transformed abandoned lots into sources of food and pride, so too can small acts blossom into revolutions. But what does this new order look like in practice? Let's step into the fields and factories where the rebellion's promise is coming to life. Every thread in the vast fabric of our world begins with a single decision. Who do you choose to stand beside? In the case of Burkina Faso and Bangladesh, they chose each other. They looked beyond borders, beyond histories of exploitation, and saw in each other a partner, an equal, a fellow traveler on the road to dignity. Right now, history refuses to wait for approval. The Cotton Rebellion surges forward, echoing across continents. A living reminder that freedom and dignity are never simply given, but must be woven, strand by strand, through conscious partnership and bold resolve. It is a living rebuke to those who say change must come from above. Neither Burkina Faso nor Bangladesh waited for an invitation. They constructed their own table and rewrote the rules, daring to claim their right to shape their destinies. Their act is no longer just their own. It challenges every one of us, asking what story we are willing to tell with our choices. Will we buy the cheapest shirt or the one that honors the hands that made it? Will we remain silent as others battle to reclaim their worth? Or will we see that every market, every neighborhood, every nation deserves the chance to rise, to trade as equals, and to prosper on their own terms? The answer lies in the choices we make, the alliances we build, and the courage we summon. The stakes are nothing less than the blueprint of tomorrow. The world order is not set in stone. It is being rewoven, thread by thread. Those who step forward now can help craft a future where dignity and prosperity are not rare privileges, but shared realities. Every movement, from women's suffrage to civil rights, began this way, with the daring hope that the future could be different. When the next chapter is written, will you be someone who watched from the edge, or someone who helped stitch real change into the heart of tomorrow? The Cotton Rebellion is living proof of what emerges when courage and solidarity join hands. There are still untold stories, new alliances waiting to be forged. The next bold decision, yours, could be the spark that ignites the next revolution. The world is watching. The pen is in your hands. How will you write the future?